Hi everybody, hope you're all doing really well and welcome to my June wrap-up. So apologies in the delay for getting this one out. I did film it last week and then I realised that my camera had deleted half the footage and then I didn't have time to refilm it before I was away for the weekend. So it's currently like well into July by the time I'm filming this, but you know, better late than never, I guess. So I read about 6 books in June. It was a really good reading month for me, you know, thankfully I've got a bit of time off of uni at the moment, so I do have a bit more time to be reading, which is really fun. I do really enjoy when I've got the summer off to be able to just read for as much as I can. So yeah, good mix of books here. Almost every single one of them has got, actually no, yeah, every single one of them has got Pride Rep, I think, in it, apart from one, which is really good for June. I was able to read a lot of the queer books, which I'm really happy about. So without any further ado, here is what I read last month. So first up, I managed to read Her Majesty's Role Coven by Juno Dawson. This was the Fairy Loot edition. This was the Fairy Loot book for the adult only book only subscription box, which I do get. First of all, you know, what a great edition it is. You know, you've got the yellow instead of the pink, and then you've got the sprayed edges up the top. You know, it's such a great book. And kind of because the cover was like bright yellow, I decided to read it basically immediately and I absolutely loved it. You know, I was in a bit of a witchy mood as it was, and this book was just honestly fantastic. Like, I absolutely loved it, could not put it down. Like, you know, I tried putting it down going to do things and I just sort of found myself going back to it because it's just so gripping and just exciting, and the way it's paced is just done in a way that, you know, there's not really any, you know, the chill moments are still very compelling to read and stuff. You don't want to come away from this book, so that was really fantastic. If you know what this book is about, it's sort of about a sort of subsection of government, which is that they're all witches, and there's this sort of like prophecy sort of coming, and you're following these 5 childhood friends who've sort of been through quite a lot together, but they're still friends. And everything kind of starts to shake things up with the arrival of a transgender witch, and that kind of sets off a lot of things. You know, really interesting discussions about trans people, about trans women. You know, the author herself is trans as well. She's also awesome, by the way. I've just come back from the YA Literature Convention in London, which Juno Dawson was at. So I have actually got this copy signed specifically for me, which was really cool. And yeah, so hearing the author talk about this book and about the witchcraft in it and giving power to women and stuff, you know, it was just really great, you know, absolutely fantastic, and really just shines a whole new light on this book. Like I said, I absolutely loved it. Fucking hate the last chapter though, holy shit. If you read the book, you kind of know what I'm talking about. I can kind of see why she's done it, and I'm definitely still going to read, but whew, it pissed me off so much. Like, oh my god, I'm so mad at that ending, so mad at that ending. I then read The Gifts That Bind Us by Caroline O'Donoghue. This is the sequel to All Our Hidden Gifts, which is a story about a sort of girl called Maeve who is sort of in high school, and she one day when doing detention finds a deck of tarot cards sort of in a cupboard that she's clearing out in school. That kind of leads her down the path of getting into tarot, getting into some witchy shit. And what she does one day, she then does readings for lots of the girls in her class, and one day she does a reading for her ex-best friend Lily, and the next day Lily goes missing, and especially after the reading produced a card that Maeve had never seen before, the housekeeper card, and everything kind of goes from there, with Maeve kind of, you know, believing that it's her fault that her friend has gone missing and trying to find out where she's gone and what's happened to her. And you know, this series is so good. Again, it's one I managed to get signed at the weekend, which is really sweet. Again, the author is lovely. She's so nice. Like, oh, she's just so nice. And again, you know, that panel which was a lot about witchcraft and stuff, again, was really fascinating and really helps shed a whole new light for this series. But I really enjoy this one. You know, it's kind of underrated, I think, and you know, it's just really great in the way that it has this sort of friend group and how they all get involved in magic, and the way it deals with sort of, you know, LGBTQ plus themes versus, you know, very Catholic, very religious sort of ideas, because this is set in Ireland, so that is quite an interesting sort of, you know, discussion to really have about the kind of stuff going on there. And, you know, you've got Maeve, who's this very unlikable character and stuff. Like, I don't like her, but at the same time I love her, like, and I love that about her. You know, she's a really interesting main character to follow. And yeah, this book is really fantastic, and The Gifts That Bind Us is such a good follow-up to All Our Hidden Gifts. I really like the stuff it does with the characters, the things it does with the plot, and the ending as well. Oh my god, things are coming full circle, and I'm so freaking excited for the last book in this trilogy to come out, because I am just, oh, it's so good, it's so good. I then read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was, my friend had lent me this book, so thank you to her for doing that. I had never read the Song of Achilles before, obviously. I read Circe, and I absolutely loved Circe. You know, I definitely enjoy Madeline Miller's writing. And I really did enjoy the Song of Achilles. If you don't know what it's basically about, you know, the myth of Achilles from the point of view of his best friend and lover, Patroclus. And yeah, that's basically the story. And, you know, following the kind of Trojan War and kind of what happens there and things. And I really, really enjoyed this one. I do enjoy Circe more. I did like Circe a lot more. Possibly just because I felt was more of a in-depth character study of this very morally grey and almost villainous character from Greek myths, whereas, you know, Achilles and Patroclus are definitely the good guys. Although I do like what they do in this book with sort of, you know, looking into what that means and looking into Achilles' sort of character and his hubris and, you know, this just, it's just, oh, I don't even know how to describe what else I loved about this book. It was just really, really great. I really loved the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus. You know, I really liked how that developed and what it meant to one another. I really just, you know, all the characters that you meet in this are really fantastic as well. I really liked the way it was paced. You know, so I did really, really enjoy this one. And, you know, I kind of knew where it was going. I wasn't too upset by the ending because I knew it was coming. And I do still find that Circe, I do think, is more my jam. But I definitely really, really enjoyed this one. And, you know, Madeline Miller is definitely, I think, an all-to-buy author for me now. I then read Loveless by Alice Osman. Once again, this is one that I got signed at the weekend. Although poor Alice, she looked really tired and a bit overwhelmed, so I hope she's doing okay. You know, because obviously the queue for her was fucking huge. I turned up early on the Sunday morning to try and get in time, and even then I was still almost the 100th person in line. So yeah, anyway, I digress. But Loveless is a really fantastic book. I've never read any other Alice Osman before. I've seen the Heartstopper TV show, obviously, and I loved it. So I definitely wanted to pick this one up, especially when you find out that a few of her books have got asexual representation in it. We'd love to see it. And this follows a girl, Georgia, who's just going to university for the first time, and she's never been kissed, she's never had a relationship, and she sort of recently just discovered that this guy that she thought she had a crush on for the last few years, she doesn't actually have a crush on him, she's just sort of, you know, fabricated that whole thing. So when she gets to university and she moves in with her new roommate Rooney, and she sees how sort of out there and confident with her sexuality that Rooney is, Georgia's like, you know, I kind of want that for me, or at least I want some sort of experience with a relationship, with love, you know, maybe this girl can help me, and everything kind of goes from there. And it's very much about Georgia finding out about asexuality and aromanticism and how to navigate that in a world where, you know, you constantly get told that those aren't actually real and there's something wrong with you if you don't think the way that everyone else thinks. And yeah, obviously this book was just absolutely fantastic, especially for me personally. You know, it's very much stuff you can relate with. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the fact as well that it was a coming of age story set in university, because I feel like a lot of authors focus on high school, but actually I think a lot of good sort of high school stories could actually be told at university, because, you know, for me especially, university is very much where I've sort of come into myself and sort of found who I am a little bit and come to more terms with my identity as a person, you know, rather than high school, because I feel like high school is definitely a lot more of an oppressive sort of scenario to be in. It's very difficult to be yourself there. So, you know, I really, really liked that this was a sort of university coming of age story. And just, yeah, overall really, really great. Loved the characters, loved the plot, loved the way that this character, you know, was flawed but was just trying her best. It is really just about this girl trying to understand herself in a world that makes it very difficult for her to understand herself. So yeah, absolutely fantastic book. I absolutely loved this one. I then read The Book of Night by Holly Black. This was their Fairly edition as well that I got back in April, I think this was. I think it was April's book box. And yeah, really enjoyed this one. I've read The Cruel Prince before, you know, I read that series, really, really liked that one. You know, Wicked King was my favourite, and I felt that The Queen of Nothing, you know, didn't quite live up to the hype that Wicked King had sort of set for myself, but, you know, still overall a really solid series. And yeah, The Book of Night was really, really interesting. It's sort of set in a world where, you know, it's our world, but then there's like shadow magic and things, and people can cut off their shadows and, you know, alter their shadows in order to get magic and things. Really, really interesting idea. You know, I really, really liked the sort of magic in this. I feel like there perhaps wasn't as much exploration into the magic as there could have been. But, oh, you know, we got enough for us to understand the story and understand this bit of the story that we are following. And you follow this woman, Charlie, who used to kind of be a thief in the sort of underworld, but has sort of since left that life behind and stuff, and is just trying to, you know, work her bartending job, and she's living with her sister and her boyfriend Vince. But then she's sort of, you know, Vince is one of these people that doesn't have a shadow, and he's very you know, cagey about his past, and kind of as things go on you find out that he's actually hiding quite a big secret, and Charlie kind of gets dragged into things alongside him, and everything kind of goes from there. You know, I did really enjoy this one. It wasn't the most amazing thing I've ever read in my life. I'm not too sure about the ending, but I did really like Charlie as a main character. I wasn't too sold on her and Vince's relationship, and Vince as a character had a lot of interesting potential, but I think perhaps didn't quite delve into that as much as I wanted it to. I believe there's going to be a sequel because, you know, it's a very cliffhangery sort of ending, which they could leave it off at, but you know, I have a feeling she'll be going for at least a second one for a duology or something. So I think I will read that just to see kind of where it's going to go from here. But you know, really interesting stuff, and like I said, I did really like the magic in this. It was very cool. I then read A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger. I've read Darcy Little Badger's other book, Alatsoe, and that's one of my favourites, so I was super excited to finally get a hold of this one, and it's just honestly amazing. You follow this young girl, Nina, who is Leaping Apache, and she's sort of living in a kind of, you know, futuristic-ish sort of kind of world. It's very similar to ours, but you know, further down the line for climate change and stuff. You know, she lives in Texas, and you know, it's kind of getting ravaged by storms and stuff, and she's very worried about her grandmother, who's basically living in a place which is about to get hit by one of the biggest storms ever, and she's kind of refusing to move. And then you also follow the point of view of Ollie, who is a cottonmouth, and he's one of the animal people. So in Nina's world, you know, it used to be that the sort of the magical animal world and our current human world used to be joined, and you could travel between both, but that era has long since passed, and people don't even believe that the animal people exist anymore. But then when you go to Ollie's point of view, you find out that they're still very much alive in their own world, and actually some of them do travel to and from our world. And when Ollie's best friend becomes ill and seems to be that he's about to die due to the extinction of his race, he and his friends decide to travel to Earth and see what's happening there that could be affecting his friend. And obviously they run into Nina, and everything goes from there. Really great book. You know, Ollie and Nina are both such fantastic protagonists. Really interestingly as well, this book, from Nina's point of view, it's all from third person, but when you go to Ollie's point of view, it's all from first person, which, you know, really helps differentiate who's talking and stuff, and just give them very different voices and stuff, which I thought was quite an interesting decision that the author made. But overall, it's a really great book. You know, I really love the world building. I really love this sort of, you know, storytelling, fairy tale sort of aspect to it. You know, there's always such an amazing whimsical sort of aspect to Darcy Little Badger's stories and stuff, and I just absolutely love them. They've just got she has this voice for them that I don't think any other author really has, and that's just kind of what makes her books so unique. And obviously the sort of, you know, Native American inspiration and the sort of Latinx inspiration as well in this was really great. And overall, just, yeah, fantastic, absolutely loved it, cannot recommend it enough. But that's all from me today. Those are the books that I read in June. Have you read any of the books that I've mentioned here? What did you think of them? Please let me know down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. What books did you read in June? I'd love to hear what you've been getting up to. If you've reached the end of this video, feel free to like and feel free to subscribe. I try to post 2 videos a week. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.